Greetings, Iain from RDO here. Welcome to the start of another week. And the sun's out and it's blue skies at last and it feels like summer again. So we're going to kick off this week with part 5 of the Tony Martin story. Yes, we've reached part 5. Got one more part to do. And this week we're going to look at some work that Tony did with producer Dario Mollo. Now, Dario Mollo was a producer and a guitar player. Now, he worked on the Dutini project, played guitar and produced their album, so he got to know Tony. So they decided to make some albums together and do a little project. And they only made 3 albums, but they are very, very good albums. As you expect, Tony Martin, it just sings brilliantly on here. Now, most of these are Italian musicians, so I do apologise for my bad Italian before I start. So as I said, there's only 3 albums, so it's a very short album ranking today. So coming at number 3 is the first of their albums together, and it is called The Cage. And it was released in 1999, and we got Tony Martin on the vocals, Dario Mollo on lead guitar, Fulvio Gaslini on bass, Enzio Sacamandi on drums. Then we have an English chap on keyboards, Mr. Don Airy no less, and backing vocals is Elio Mogeri. So the first track on here is called Cry Myself to Death. It's a typical start of a Tony Martin vocal and his wonderful range. Some of Dario's guitar work on this is good on this track. It's a pretty good solid opening track. Then we get a track called Time to Kill. Dario's guitar work is pretty good. He's a really good guitarist. I think he must be classically trained. You can tell with how he plays his guitar. It's got some great keyboard bits here from Don. And then Tony comes up with a killer vocal as ever. Then we get The Cage, If You Believe. Now, the Cage bit is very acoustic. So you've got this nice gentle Tony Martin, and then it goes into the If You Believe, and then it rocks up. Great vocal from Tony, probably Dario's best guitar solo on the album. A pretty good track. Then we get Relax. Love the drumming in this by this chap called Enzio Sacamandi. Really rolling drums. Really great vocal from Tony on this. Still pumping out them great tunes. Then we get Smoke and Mirrors. Again, Enzio's drumming is terrific. Really crisp. You can hear them hi-hats. Guitar work from Dario is really good. Then we get my favourite track on this one. This one's called Infinity. It's got a great bass line and little bits of nice keyboard from Don. A great track all round. Dead Man Dancing, dramatic start, lots of shredding from Dario. Absolutely killer track. This Kind of Love, it's okay. But then the last track, the second but last track on this album, is a cover of a Deep Purple song, and it is Stormbringer. It's absolutely brilliant. Now, the keyboard bit is brilliant because you got Don Airy, who sort of can play anything that John played. It's probably the second best song on here, and I think Tony Martin does a killer vocal on it. Now, we know that Tony Martin can sing other people's stuff. You told when he was with Black Sabbath, he sang Ozzy stuff and Dio stuff, great. So I love this version of this song. It is absolutely brilliant. And the guitar work from Dario on it is terrific as well. Then we get the last track, Soul Searching. Great atmospheric track here. It's got some lovely guitar tones, and Tony sounds great on this. Probably one of my favourites on the album as well. Very good album. There's only one track that I'm not that keen on, but the rest of it is killer rock album. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 8 out of 10. Okay, coming at number 2, we go to 2000 now, and the second album, and it's called The Cage 2. Different people on this, apart from Tony and Martin on the vocals and Dario Mollo. On bass on this one is the great Tony Franklin. Played on lots of stuff, but he was in The Firm and he was in Blue Murder. Then we've got Roberto Goldi on the drums, Dario Patti on the keyboards, and on didgeridoo we have Walter Rutter. First track on here is called Terratoya. What a wonderful bass line from Mr. Tony Franklin. Really meaty. Great vocal here from Tony. I love this track. Pretty good. Overload. Again, you've got Dario's lovely tones on the guitar. You've got a solid bass line from Tony Franklin and Tony Martin on the vocals. Fantastic. Love Life and Everything. This has got that typical Tony Franklin fretless bass line. Absolutely killer. Really is the highlight of the track. Apart from Tony singing, of course. Really good. The balance of power. Just a solid metal track here. The killer riffs. A keyboard solo from Dario Patti that's absolutely brilliant. Second favourite track on here is absolutely killer. But my favourite track is called Amor Silencio. Definitely my top 5 of the Cage songs. It's got that richness of Tony Franklin's bass. You've got some really good riffs and guitar bits from Dario, and Tony, one of his best vocal performances with this little project. Then we get a little instrumental called Just Two. It's just a little thing between the two Darios here. Dario Mollo on guitars and Patti on the keyboards. Very atmospheric. Wing and Change. It's okay. It's nothing to do with the Scorpions. It's a great vocal. Very versatile. Theatre of Dreams comes next. Great rock track this is. Great drums this is. It's really heavy. It's lots of good shredding. Tony's on fire. Well, both Tonys are on fire on that. Then, What's a Strange Thing Love Is. Great little rocker again. The solid rock track. Then we get a cover. Now this is a Jake Holmes song that was obviously made popular by Led Zeppelin, and it's Dazed and Confused. Very good version of this. Again, I think when you've got such a great bass player in Tony Franklin, you're going to do it. And Tony's vocal on this is brilliant. Absolutely. You get a different change of tempo, but it's just really, really good. Guardian Angel. Again, the distinctive drum, it really hitting them hard. Some great riffs here. You get another change of tempo in this. It's absolutely flawless. Absolutely superb track. Poison Roses. A good track. Again, it just proves what a versatile singer Tony Martin is. A solid album here, not from top to bottom. There is just not one bad track on this. It's absolutely killer. These albums don't get the credit they deserve. They are really good, and I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 8.3. Okay then, coming in at number 1 is their final album. And I haven't put the year as usual, so there's the year. And it's called The Third Cage. On here we've got Tony and Dario, and then on bass, and this again is Fulvio Gassini. Roberto Goldi's on the drums, Dario Patti on keyboards, and a chap called Brian Moore does some keyboards as well. Opens up with a track called Wicked World. This is a great bass line from Fulvio. Really dirty riffs from Dario. Absolute killer opening track. Cirque du Freak, heavy track. The vocals from Tony are incredible on this. It's a little bit different, but it's solid. I love it. Oh My Soul. Well, I consider this one of the best ballads that Tony has ever sung. It's absolutely stunning. It's absolutely wonderful vocal range of Tony. This is what I love about Tony. 1 minute we are singing heavy metal and screeching away, and then we sing wonderful ballads like this. Then we get one of the few solid track, great bass line on this as well. Then we have my favourite on here called Still in Love with You. My favourite track on here. It's got that Mystique keyboard on it. A daunting vocal from Tony Martin, and I just love that track. Can't Stay Here. Tony singing on all cylinders here. Really belting out on this. Some more great drumming here from Roberto. It is a really strong track. Worn Dance. The riffs from Dario are just incredible on this. He's very sort of underrated guitar player. Solid track. Then we got Don't You Know What It's. Don't you start again, Iain. Don't Know What It Is About You. Probably the weakest track on the album. It's not bad, but it's when you just compare it to the others, it is pretty weak. Bit of a filler. And then we get my second favourite track on here. It's called Blind Fury. It's just classic heavy metal, driving riffs, booming bass line, great vocals. What more can you ask for? And the last track is called Violet Moon. Another emotional roller coaster here. Great track. Again, one of my favourite guitar solos by Dario Mollo. Absolutely killer track to end this good album. I would say this is the heaviest of all the albums that these made, that Dario and Tony make. I love playing this album, even though it's got that one weaker track on it. It's still an album that I love listening to, and these 3 albums are very underrated. Go and check them out. So I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 8.5. So I don't think we'll have any of these albums unless you're an absolute diehard fan in the Battle Royale. We're getting some good albums coming in now. It's got till the 17th of September, so we've got plenty of time. Think of what albums. Always have a backup just in case someone has already put your album in. Go to the page with this wonderful thumbnail and the video. If you want to get all the details how to enter, it's on there. And don't forget, your prize if you win the battle is an exclusive t-shirt featuring Rocky the Dachshund on it. People have asked, can we have the t-shirt with Rocky on it? So I've put Rocky on it somewhere. So that's all for part 5. Now part 6 next week is the last bit, and it's just called Featuring Tony Martin. So there's bits and bobs. It's just to round off this great rock singer. Okay, next up is Classic Album, and during the month of August I thought I'd try and get a little bit of sunshine and warmth into you. And we're going to look at some reggae albums, and basically I've looked at the lists of great reggae albums, and I found 4 really good albums that people have highly recommend and have wrote good stuff about it. So we're going to start off with the Heptones and the album Cool Rasta, which is a great album. So join me for that later. Bye for now.